And I'm Swampy.
And like we said, you may remember us from Phineas and Ferb.
We were still Dan and Swampy then, too.
And while that show was ramping down, we came up with this idea for another show, and pitched it, and they picked it up, and we just moved right from that show into this show. We're really enjoying it.
We thought we were going to get a vacation.
And it was strange at first, like when we first started working on this show, it was weird to still be working just straight through and having worked on one show for 10 years. It was weird to be working with new characters. It was sort of like we were cheating on one show with the other. And it took a while before there was one day where I realized, oh, I haven't thought about ideas for Phineas and Ferb in a while. It's only been the Milo Murphy's Law gang bouncing around in my head, and then it felt like, oh, so Phineas was I remember Phineas fondly, but it's like something that I did, as opposed to why am I not doing this anymore? So it's been a transition. Now we're really loving this show. I think it's in some ways it's even smarter than Phineas was, and we're having a great time.
Because we've grown.
Yes,
and
exactly.
No, we haven't.
But you'll see it's sort of set in the same world as Phineas as far as the way it looks and all that sort of stuff. We like to think of it as like, the Marvel universe is all one place, and so is ours. I think you'll enjoy it. Are we just introducing the thing? Okay, well, we're going to go and watch it with you guys because I don't even know what show they're showing.
We're going to make sure you laugh by
like, hey, that was a laugh. That'll be fun. All right, so enjoy.
Thank you.
Well, this made me laugh the first several times I heard it. I should probably leave it in because otherwise you end up changing things just because you've heard them a lot. And it's always nice when people laugh at the things that we thought were funny originally. So
it is nice.
It is. It's nice. So you work in TV, you work in sort of a vacuum, and you sort of send it out into the ether. And you don't, if you're in features, you can go to an actual theater and hear people responding to it, or if you're in a play or something like that, you get that instant gratification.
Stand-up comedy.
We have to sort of look online to see what kids are saying about it in order to get sort of a response back. So this is always
the
fun.
crew laughs, but we pay them.
Yeah.
What is it like working with Weird Al Yankovic, and how much influence does he have on Milo sometimes?
Well, between the temper tantrums and
he's a horror to live. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Somebody said the weirdest thing about him is just how normal he is. True.
He's super, super normal. He's not as wacky as I think people expect him to be, except when he's on stage or doing one of his videos. But he's about the nicest guy that we know, and that's part of why we ended up with him is we were looking for somebody who could have this sort of very positive voice without sounding put on. And we went to we auditioned hundreds of people for Milo, and we auditioned kids, seasoned voice actors, people whose work we love. But when they try to do that super positivity thing, it would always come off sort of Pollyanna and feel false. And we just need to find somebody who just actually has that voice, because the character is sort of modeled after a friend of ours who just sounds that way when he talks, and he just always sounds really positive, and we need to find somebody who sounds who has that positivity just naturally, and Weird Al came in and did a voice on Gravity Falls, and Alex, who runs Gravity Falls, posted it, and I was like, ooh, Weird Al. Weird Al would be like I've met him, I've seen him interviewed. He's like a super, super positive guy. What does he sound like? I had to look up an interview with him to remind myself what his voice sounded like. And we had him come in, and it was just immediately worked. And we're like,
I was against it. We'd already auditioned literally hundreds of people, and I'm like, no.
We
couldn't take it. We wanted to hire the guy who's a friend of ours who works on another show.
But he runs another show, and so he was
really busy.
And Disney was like, we're not going to give you Noah. Sorry, it's not going to happen. If he
was
has
so
2 hours extra, he should be doing it on his show.
over the process. So
Like,
when Dan said, we're going to read one more person, I'm like, fine, whatever. Do it. I don't care. And then he sent me the audition, and I got up in the morning, it was on an email, so I'm literally sitting there in bed with my wife, and I play Weird Al's voice. She looked at me, she went, who's that? And I went, it's Weird Al. It's really good. So wrong. I had to go, no, it's wrong.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a great find, and working with him is great. You know, it's the fact that we get to write songs and have Weird Al sing them is, you know, it just makes my high school self just go, you know. And the funny thing is during the course of Phineas, there were several songs from first season that got sort of popular, and then we would write our own Weird Al version of that song later, and do sort of you know, like just change the lyrics and make it for that particular instance, and that was always fun. We always called it our Weird Al version. Well, now for Milo, we needed a song that was we wrote something like that for Phineas. So I took the music from a song we wrote on Phineas and just rewrote the lyrics and made our own Weird Al version of a song from Phineas for Milo, and actually got Weird Al to sing it. So it was like, oh, we wrote our own Weird Al version, and Weird Al is how bizarre is that? So that's it's really fun.
When you find somebody who really works, it lets you push the character a lot more than you normally would, and that's been really fun. And also, I've never worked with anybody that's that prepared every day for everything, and especially the music stuff. He literally.
Because he's an actual musician. We're sort of fake, you know, like we don't read and write, you know, music. We can play and sing into a microphone, and then somebody else like writes out the score and stuff like that from that. And so he'll come in for a song and he'll go, yeah, on bar 12 here, you've got a dotted quarter note, but in the demo that you guys sang, it's a dotted half note or something. Like, which one do you want to? And we're like, I think it's so cute that you think we know the answer to that.
I try to sound intelligent, say, just take the dot off. It's fine.
Yes, yeah. Well, I always say, well, however we sang it in the demo, that's how it's supposed to go. We don't know what those little dots mean. So, but he's
and the
very
other
prepared.
fun thing about Al, of all the really big names that we've had come in and do voices on the show, those people geek out more about Al than anyone I know. I mean,
Yeah.
really famous people. Somebody looked at me, Al's come, can I stay?
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, of course.
Could I trouble you gentlemen for an introduction to Mr. Yankovic? You know, that sort of stuff.
Can I take a selfie?
Yeah. I saw an article online that said that Weird Al's fame has now eclipsed all of the people that he used to, the ones that he would parody back in the day. He's still so relevant, and everybody else, has sort of fallen by the wayside. And I think that's just a testament to his force of will that he was able to do that. He created a job for himself in which he could be a household name, basically, doing something that no one else in our lifetime has done for
Playing
a living.
the accordion.
Playing the accordion and making up different lyrics to existing songs. No one has ever done that, and he has made himself a household name doing that. That's just an amazing, just force that he is.
I have a question.
Yes.
You had mentioned that you look online to see the feedback that you're getting from your fans when they watch the show. What is it that you're looking for from them? What are you wanting them to get from watching it?
Well, a lot of times you're looking to see what starts getting quoted. It's like there's always the Monday morning gag. That's what we're always looking for, is the Monday morning gag, the gag that kids will come to school and talk about. And I remember early on in Phineas, there was this bizarre thing we did where we had Monogram remember this academy he went to, and one of the executives at Disney said, "You're not going to really leave that in there because that doesn't make any sense." And I said, "No, we're not cutting that. That's the Monday morning gag." I said, "What do you that's what people are going to be quoting online." And he said, "I will. There's no way that's the Monday morning gag. I will give you $100 for every kid that comes up and quotes that line to you. And at this point, he owes me $1,500. Which I told him when it got to be about $700. I told him, and he said, "Could I give it to you in Hannah Montana merchandise?" So he still owes me, but it's
nice to know
fun
that
see.
things that you wanted, were hoping that would connect, do connect. And also, I think I look for it to find the surprising things that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the joy. You think, oh, there's this whole other thing that happened that I really didn't anticipate.
You
That's
guys
fun.
laughed at something that we weren't expecting you to laugh at. And I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, I guess that is funny. You know, like I hadn't thought of it that way at all. But it was like that's always fun when you get a laugh for something that you're like,
Was it the best?
oh, that's a
the
surprise.
The other thing I'm always looking for is the people out there who are me. That if I had somebody much earlier on in my life say you should do that, then
Or that you
maybe
could
I'd
do
have
it,
found
yeah.
this gig a lot earlier. I didn't get into animation until I was like 28, and I like finding those kids that are out there looking for somebody to say, you know, hey, this, you know, doodling and storytelling you do, or singing funny songs. There's a place for you out there to do that.
We get a lot of people that follow us on Twitter that say that now that's what they want to do is animation. It always makes me feel great.
Speaking of kids, Jeff, have your grandkids inspired any of the episodes, or have you seen some of the episodes?
And they show up as little characters in there too. Yeah, we steal from tons of our life. Yeah, every time you're with them, you know, there's fun little behaviors and things that you don't think about till you see, you know, your grandkids, people that young doing stuff that you think that's funny.
Do they
So,
recognize themselves in those characters, or do you tell them?
Oh, I tell them. You have to tell them, otherwise it happens and they didn't know. Then they're really angry at you.
I have two girls. One's named Isabella, who I named Isabella and Phineas and Ferb after. And so when I was drawing out these characters, I put a Melissa in there, and I had it on my desk, and I went to sleep, and my oldest daughter Isabella had woken up before me, and she left a Post-it on it that said, "Daddy, this is not fair. You can't put Melissa into this show and not have an Isabella." And I had to call her and say, "Isa, you realize that there's a big hit show with a character that's named after you on it?" She goes, "Yes, but Isabella doesn't look like me, and that looks like Melissa." And I was like, "Oh, I can't win. I cannot win." And I was like, "Well, because you weren't quite born yet. We knew we were having an Isabella, and we you know, so I just like made it look like your cousin."
And I get things like I put my wife in a show and she was mortified. And then what I thought was weird was she said, "I can't believe you did that to a character designer. Made them design the boss's wife. That was really mean of you." And I didn't think. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
You know, what's funny is the mom, Milo's mom in this, looks very much like my wife, but when I drew it, it didn't.
Yeah.
And then she cut her hair to that haircut, and now all of her family thinks that I obviously drew that to look like Clarissa, and it's not. It's a complete coincidence. Yes.
The Dr. Zone Files one with like the Doctor Who references
Yeah.
and stuff, that was super fun, and I was wondering if you have any plans to do any other like pop culture, like full on like homage or whatever to it.
We've been busy with Dr. Zone because that comes back into play.
Okay.
What this series has that Phineas never had is like the guys who are protecting the pistachios. That becomes a bigger story by midway through the season that starts to become a big arc that actually goes through the whole season and culminates in a big season finale with a big climax to that story. And we've never really done that in Phineas, where we kept a story going through, you know, not only several episodes, but through the entire season. We wanted to sort of introduce all the characters first, and in the very first episodes, you only see those guys in the very background of things. and then they start having lines, and then they, and
Sounds like a
midway
fun.
through,
You have to start
yeah.
planning the season out, and we've covered 3 or 4 rooms with Post-it notes, trying to make everything,
Yeah.
make sure everything actually connects and works.
And luckily,
what you
because it takes so long to do animation, sometimes we'll be in episode 16 and we'll go, oh, we're doing this here. It would be cool if we planted something earlier. What episode has not shipped overseas yet? Or what episode can we put a line in that'll tease that and makes us look a lot smarter than we actually are? They were planning that way back then. Well, yes and no.
We try to do things that make us look smarter than we are often.
Yeah. But,
That's why I have these glasses.
luckily we aren't setting the bar that high.
No.
So, it's, yeah.
You guys voiced Dakota and Cavendish.
Yes.
And I could see the relevancy of the characters. When you guys,
Yes.
Was that planned initially, or? Something
Yeah, I think
that
Dakota and Cavendish, that whole concept of that came out of the writer's room, though. That wasn't part of our
writers
original
mocking us.
concept of it. I think the writers were like, we need somebody to cut away to, because they were they were used to doing Phineas and Ferb and then cutting away to Perry and Doofenshmirtz, and they pitched this idea of these time travelers, and then the whole, like, what they do and everything came out of that meeting. But when I drew it, I sort of was drawing it with the thought of me being that guy and you being Cavendish. So that's just been a fun thing to do, and we get to be in the record room together, which we never did. He was Monogram and I was Doofenshmirtz, and there were only like 3 episodes where they even had a conversation, because they're usually separated by distance. And
Now we just
and
put
so-
2 mics in the room, and we just sit and
Yeah.
play around and ad-lib, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Phineas and Ferb was, I think, the first animated show that I would catch my husband watching without the kids in the room. So how
You
important
chose the right man.
Your husband is a wise individual.
how important is it for you to create a show that the whole family can watch together, from adults to
That's the best thing that we hear, because when we started Phineas, it was right at the time where TV watching had gotten so segmented. There's cable stations that are just, there's the food station, the Food Network, and the Home and Garden Television, and
There's a
everything
whole
is.
bass fishing network.
Yeah, there really is, and what the research was showing was that every age group in the house had its own TV, and so family viewing, as we remember it from when we were kids, had sort of disappeared. It's like when we were kids, it was the whole family on the couch watching TV, like the opening of The Simpsons. It was everybody watching one show, and you had to pick something that everybody liked. And since that was no longer the norm, people weren't doing as many shows that the whole family could do. So when we hear that, to us, it just warms our heart that we're bringing back family
You hear
viewing
the
for these
stories that,
families.
it's like, because I was on a ski lift with this 18-year-old kid, and I was making jokes about my 15-year-old son, saying he was up here with a bunch of 15-year-olds and blah, blah, blah. We were talking, and he did that, what do you do? And I said, well, I do cartoons for Disney. Oh, what show? I said, well, I used to do a show called Phineas and Ferb, and this 18-year-old went, oh my God, dude, I gotta take a selfie with you. And I forgot that now these kids that grew up on our show are 18, 19, 20, they're in college, and they have this language with their families. They have shared jokes because the show talks to everybody in the house, and I think that's awesome. That they, I had a guy when I was talking at a college asked if I would call his dad and tell his dad to send him more money as a monogram. Because if I did it as monogram,
He would have to do it.
because they shared that whole thing, and I did it. Oh, I'm here with your son, and he's doing very well in school. He could probably use a few more bucks. And I got a nice email from him later saying he sent more money. Thanks. But it was just all of a sudden there's that shared humor, those shared jokes, those shared lines that those families will have forever, and sometimes it's just singing the songs together.
my daughter will say, hey Mom, you want to see my new scar today?
Already, excellent. Look at that. That's very good. part of it was that we just make the show to make each other laugh and to make the writers laugh, and we all have immature enough senses of humor that we also laugh at the stuff that the kids would laugh at, but we also laugh at jokes that the kids won't get. And we always feel like, let's just put everything that we think is funny in, and just make sure that there's enough stuff in for the kids if they don't get a reference or something like that. Our only rule is, if the adult in the room laughs and the kid asks what they're laughing about, that conversation can't be an uncomfortable conversation. So we don't put any sexual references. We don't put any double entendres that way. We want the root of the gag to always be wholesome.
We'd rather have the conversation be because we did a joke about existentialist philosophy.
But sometimes the adults will have to look up.
I mean, it's an uncomfortable conversation, but mostly because even we don't know what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Nietzsche and Sartre, who are these people?
So who has the bad luck? Like you said, this concept came to you. Is it because you always run into?
No, it's sort of people have asked me a couple times what how did you deal with all the adversity that happened to you, in your career, for instance. And I always look back on that as I always scratch my head and think, did I have adversity? And I look back and there's a lot of things that went wrong throughout that. And I think Swampy and I are both very positive in our outlook of life. So when things go wrong, we just go around it, and people often think that, you're going down this path, and if you turn this way, it's success, and this way it's failure. And that's not at all what it is. It's failure, 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 success. You just have to keep going down whatever path you're on, and if there's failure here, you turn that way. If there's failure here, you turn that way, and you just keep going. And I think that's part of what we were trying to do with Milo is that things are going to go wrong for everybody. At all, and if there's anything we want the kids to know from this is that if things go wrong in your life, don't let it ruin your day, much less your life. Find the positive spin on it.
My little brother and I have always grown up with people saying, I can't believe you guys turned out the way you did. My mom's now living in Montana with husband number 7. So there was some chaos growing up. But we always thought, well, it's your choice what you do with that. Either it buries you or it makes you an interesting person with a lot of experience that no one else had. And I always thought when we started creating Milo, I always thought that was the coolest thing about a character like that is like whatever life's thrown at you, go, well, I'm going to know how to deal with that. It's going to make me a little tougher, a little stronger, a little more interesting, a little more fun, whatever it is. That's a great thing to know because life's going to throw stuff at everybody. And you have to figure out it's what you do with it.
Nobody really leads a charmed life. They just exist within the life that they have in a positive way.
My son does, but then I intentionally make things go wrong.
You gotta toughen them up.
We have time for one more question. Does anyone have?
What advice would you have for young kids who are into drawing and doodling and those kind of things, and maybe see a career for themselves?
Throw away their erasers.
Yeah.
The whole thing that I always see people doing, kids that are drawing or trying to create perfect drawings and beautiful drawings. And somebody much wiser than me once said, I think there's 10,000 bad drawings in everybody. Your job is to get them out as quickly as possible. And you only do that by doing more drawings. Filling pages with, I had, when I started in animation, because I didn't get trained in this, I think it was David Silverman.
Which is still a very obvious fact if you work there.
Silverman was one of the first guys who kind of helped teach me, and he for a while said, you should just draw with a Sharpie. It'll keep you from fiddling with stuff and fussing with stuff. It forces you just to make bold shapes. And for a year, I didn't draw with anything other than the Sharpie when I was drawing my own stuff, and it had a huge positive impact. You can't erase it. You can't fiddle it. And I started filling books with drawings. Yeah. And my mom still has it. I drew. More drawings. No erasing.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.